It's always scary to go first, but welcome, good morning, and thank you to Johns Hopkins and the organizers and our sponsors for the opportunity to share our story.
So it's so great to be here with all of you. I'm Jen Herbach. I'm one of the co-founders and the CEO of Adventris.
And I'm Mark Yarchoan. I'm a physician scientist at Hopkins. I did my postdoc in Liz Jaffe's lab in the red dress, and she's our chief scientific officer, so we've stacked the audience.
So we're really excited to be here today and introduce you to Adventris, and we make cancer vaccines. So a little bit more about what makes us so unique. First, we have built a team of world-leading cancer vaccine experts, two of whom are here today. But when we think about what our special sauce is and what really differentiates us from the rest of the field is we have a cancer vaccine platform that basically enables us to solve one of the biggest challenges in the cancer vaccine space, which is the targeting of oncogenes, which are naturally poorly immunogenic. So given this, not surprisingly, the first target that we're going after is KRAS, which is the most common oncogene, and it accounts for about 30% of all cancers. So we're going to be starting our clinical development in lung, colon, and pancreatic cancer. And most excitingly, we actually have preclinical as well as clinical data that validates our approach. So as I mentioned, we have a team of world-leading cancer vaccine experts. And this company really builds off of actually decades of Dr. Jaffe's work. We're so excited to have her today. And she's really a luminary in the cancer vaccine space, been the co-chair of Biden's Moonshot, past president of AACR, and is really our physician scientist leader of the company. So in addition, we've actually raised a 12 million seed from a really strong syndicate of investors. One of our investors actually introduced us, so thank you, Matt, and thank you, Blackbird. We're excited to have them here today. And then in addition to our leadership, we really have a strong scientific foundation, including two scientists at Hopkins, Dr. Neha Zaidi and Dr. Amanda Huff. And we've also really built a world-class advisory board, including leaders like Dr. Kathy Wu, who's one of the leaders in the neoantigen, in developing neoantigens. And now I'll turn it over to Mark to dig in a little bit more on the science.
So I think hopefully everyone here is familiar with vaccines. The goal of vaccines is to educate the immune system to recognize and attack specific targets. And we're all familiar with vaccines in the infectious disease world, but it turns out that vaccines can also educate the immune system to recognize and attack cancer. And I think this has been made clear most recently by a randomized trial from Moderna and Merck that was successful in melanoma. We're going to introduce you to our approach, which is a little bit different. I think there are a lot of companies developing personalized vaccines that target mostly passenger mutations in a cancer. Our approach is to make vaccines against the cancer driver. And why do we think this is the optimal target? Well, at a very high level, cancers are addicted to their driver oncogenes. They need them to survive. So if we can mount an immune response against the protein that comes from this driver, it's very hard for the cancer to escape because it can't lose the driver. There are other advantages. Because drivers are shared from cancer to cancer, it allows us to use an off-the-shelf product, no personalization required, to treat a lot of patients. Then at a very high level, I think the reason that we're most excited about this approach is that to make a personalized vaccine, you need to have a cancer. We know that vaccines work best not to treat cancer, but also to treat the earliest cancers and for cancer prevention. And so by targeting things that are shared from cancer to cancer to cancer, a single vaccine could eventually be used not only to treat cancer, but to prevent it. So our long-term goal is that everybody in this room would get our product. But this is a very challenging target. There's a reason that people get cancer. It's because the immune system fails to recognize these drivers. But we think we have a solution, and this is our antigen engineering platform that I'll introduce you to that allows us to target these very, very challenging immunologic targets. So this is essentially our special sauce, if you will, and it's modeled on the immunologic principle of molecular mimicry. So many of you may be aware that when we get a certain infection, like a strep infection, there's a risk that the immune system gets confused, and after attacking the strep, then goes on to attack other parts of our body, and we get rheumatic fever. And we're trying to do something similar, use this principle that the immune system, some of the strongest responses against self-antigens are because of cross-reactivity. And so we try to do this intentionally. So instead of giving back to the patient the same thing that's in the cancer, we give a slightly modified version of it. And these are peptides that are cross-reactive with the antigen that we're trying to target. So instead of giving, for example, a KRAS G12D, we give a slightly modified KRAS G12D peptide that results in a much stronger cross-reactive immune response. And this allows us to get the immune system to attack something that it often would ignore, or to get a stronger response against it. We think that we're pretty unique. So this is some of our competitors in the space. We're obviously not the only ones working on cancer vaccines, but I think that our approach is actually quite unique. Most of the other companies in the cancer vaccine space are really focused on delivery platforms, RNA, DNA, et cetera. We're really working on the other side of the problem, which is the antigen itself. And it's not that we think these other companies are necessarily going to fail. I even led the clinical trial for Genios. But we really think that we have a unique solution that can make these other vaccine platforms better. And in the long run, I think the unique vision that we have is not only to treat cancer, but also to prevent it.
So in terms of where we're at today, we have validated our antigen engineering platform in vivo mouse models. We've showed improved survival and tumor reduction, and also enhanced immunogenicity of our engineered antigens. We're currently working on our KRAS vaccine and targeting candidate selection in 2025, and then we're targeting dosing our first patients in 2026. And I think, as Mark mentioned, what our ultimate goal is really to move these vaccines into the prevention space. And I think it's something that really drives our team. And I think we're a little bit unique in that when we think about other oncology therapeutics companies, while we're starting originally for therapeutics, our ultimate blue sky vision is really to eventually develop a universal cancer vaccine that targets the most common driver oncogenes that everyone in this room would be able to get. So we keep trying to put Mark and Liz and most of Hopkins out of business. So that's our goal.
After years of being an oncologist, this is really what motivated us to start this company. Is I've lost so many patients, and the idea of making a difference in patients' lives is why we're doing this.
Yeah. So we thank you so much for having us today. We're really excited to meet a pile of Series A investors as we move towards our Series A, and happy to have further conversations and share more of our data.